Wow. I'm waiting for you to say bless me. Any day now. I just sneezed all over my microphone. So, I got a lot of shit to get off my chest. But it's mainly about the second topic, so I guess I'll get through the joy that I had watching the Lil Nas X new music video for his hit single, Old Town Road with Billy Ray Cyrus. But in the music video, we've also got cameos from some of your faves. You got Chris Rock, you got social media star Haha Davis, who I think is incredibly funny. I've always liked that guy. Always giving me good spirit, good energy, good vibes, nice sayings. We got Vince Staples, one of my favorite artists. We got Rico Nasty in the video. It's a really good time, and I think this music video just goes to show what can happen out of a song that's meant to provoke fun and meant to provoke just enjoyment. It's not a real song to me that's supposed to be interpreted as something spiritual or meaningful or too deep, even though I interpreted it as him, saying F you to the world, and he's going to define success in his own way, while Billy Ray Cyrus acts as a feature to kind of reiterate that idea. I think the music video just goes to show the intention behind the song and where he's at right now in life, having a good time. And I get nothing but that from the music video. I love the energy in this music video. I love how well it comes across. It's #1 on trending. I would appreciate it if everyone would go watch it. Even if you don't like the song, I like what he's doing with it. The idea of starting off in the very beginning of the music video, leaving the 1800s to end up in the 2000s to signify that he's bridging the gap between old West men and new generation rap music. It's kind of a signification of what the song actually is. It's like country rap or country and modern music. People don't really like country like that in the modern times. It's not the most popular genre, whereas hip hop and rap is. So you see him transport it to a time that's more modern, a time that's more culturally influential, to signify that he is the person that's going to bridge the gap and have everyone just indiscriminately have fun. Or you have hardcore country fans that'll probably open this video and be like, what's with all these niggers? Strategically, this works really well for Lil Nas because of streaming as well, because he's also going to remain further on the charts for a little bit longer, I would assume, because of this music video trending at #1 on YouTube, despite the fact that it was already #1 for 6 weeks anyway. So I think it's nothing but a win-win. Lil Nas X also has an EP that's coming out soon, and he featured a bunch of snippets on Twitter, which I was extremely excited and happy about, because a lot of that shit sounds good. But I just hope that he doesn't go too far with it. I hope that he still keeps having a good time, because usually when artists have their first big hit like this and they get a whole bunch of publicity, a whole bunch of notoriety, they usually fuck up by having this really deep wannabe try hard shit in their music that ultimately ends up with them falling flat on their face. And I just hope that's not what ends up happening. But from the snippets that I've heard, I've got hope for the best. So that's what I think about Lil Nas X in his new music video. Go watch it. It's a good time. That and the song itself is actually pretty cool. I think it's pretty good anyway, but Now that we got the good news out of the way, who saw that bullshit? Game of Thrones is a magical, mythical show about dragons and white zombies and kings and queens set in medieval times that are all fighting for the throne that ultimately rules over their 7 kingdoms, I think. So with that being said, the show has been giving us content for the past, I don't know when the show first started, in like 2011 or something like that. Since then, the show's been giving us content that would mirror the harsh realities of something like medieval times, underhanded shit, good people getting betrayed, thrown under the bus. We've experienced that for about 5 seasons straight. And then beyond that, it's been a little bit of a blur for me personally, because there have been some things that have been kind of okay, kind of not okay since season 5. But I've usually kept my mouth shut on it because the series has usually maintained its quality to some degree beyond season 5. So when season 8 came out, I had no reason to believe it wouldn't be a great time, because it's Game of Thrones, man. Like, I like this show. It's not greatest show of all time, but I like this show, right? I vouched for it. I've got people watching this show that have never touched it before. Then they hit me with, we're going to end the series with 6 episodes. And immediately I start going crazy. A lot of y'all might be thinking, oh, you're just upset because the series didn't end the way you wanted it to end. That has nothing to do with it. I just want the shit to make sense. And for it to make sense, you need enough time to be able to tell the story in enough detail to be able to make the story end and be good while at the same time making sense. Immediately into season 8, we're thrown into the fight that we've been waiting for since the beginning of season 1, where the first guy ends up getting killed by the White Walkers, right? We've been waiting on that since 2011. Now, 8 years later, in 2019, that fight ends in one episode. The guy who's been touted to be like the biggest threat, not only to Winterfell, but the entire Seven Kingdoms and the world, has been defeated in one episode by an 18-year-old girl. Cool. I'm not going to go on and talk about how I would have written the show, even though I've got probably 2 really good ways for that battle to have ended, where Jon Snow loses an arm and then Arya comes in to save him halfway through, him halfway dying. There's another scenario I played in my head where the Night King ultimately ends up sacrificing himself for this newfound power that he believes is inside of Bran. This scenario, Bran also dies, but I guess in the Game of Thrones series, they decided to make him King of the Seven Kingdoms, so we'll get to that. So that happened, and a lot of people were disappointed with that, but they still had hope that they could clean up the rest of it by having a really epic confrontation with Cersei Lannister, and we could get rid of the rest of the bullshit, and we could finally see the person that people have been waiting to die since season 1, who pushed the fucking kid, the cripple, out of the window in the first place. We've been waiting for her to die forever. Okay, well, Jaime did that, but she was right along with him. Oh, wait, what? You killed her in rubble? You killed... Oh, wait, no, you said you had her die with her mans? You had her die with her mans in his arms, singing sweet nothings in her ear as he says that everything will be okay, and that they basically love each other? That's how you had her die? Really? Oh, wait, who ended up killing... Oh, Arya didn't end up killing her. Daenerys accidentally kills her because she went fucking berserk and decided to burn the entire city that for a season she'd sworn not to do. Oh, well, don't worry. I mean, it probably took like at least a season or 2 for her character to develop into something like a Mad Queen, right? Oh, it took 1 episode? Oh, you mean the episode prior to that where she forgot that the Iron Fleet was on their way, literally the exact same fucking day they were discussing the Iron Fleet being on their way, and took her dragon out there and ended up getting him killed. That episode, look, I get it if you want to make things easier on yourselves as writers to just kill characters. I get it, because it's less complicated. You don't have to keep everybody in there as long. It's more closure. But for people dying, it needs to make sense. Her dragon dying the first time, the writers chalked up to her simply forgetting the plan that they had discussed the same fucking day. Okay, cool, whatever. And then Game of Thrones and the writers also unintentionally mistake character development with foreshadowing. Because the conflict between Jon and Daenerys had been foreshadowed ever since we came into the knowledge that he was a Targaryen. That conflict had been there since we realized that, because Dany's whole goal in life has been to sit on the Iron Throne and break this cycle. Cool. You don't make her have that transition in 2 episodes. You take a show like Breaking Bad, for instance, and you see that Walt ultimately ends up becoming Heisenberg, the persona that he created in order to protect himself and his family from harm due to his dealings in the meth industry. But he ultimately ends up dying to his persona as opposed to the cancer that we thought was threatening him through majority of the show. That's how you develop a character. And that's also foreshadowing to make a good plot. You don't just transition a character from acting one way to acting another and abandoning her entire principle just because you foreshadowed this a few seasons ago. Season 8, hands down, may have ruined Game of Thrones for some people. For me, it ruined a couple characters, one being Arya Stark. She was a character that I felt could actually die at some point in the series, up until she kills the fucking Night King when there are lieutenants or whatever those other white things behind him are, and she somehow manages to get through them and jump at this man, get close enough to get choked, and still stab him to death. Cool, whatever. Another character that pissed me off this season, Tyrion Lannister. This guy is a character that's been basically surviving off of his wit and instinct alone throughout the entire show. Tyrion has made the story progress, or his own character progress in some way, due to his wit or the way they wrote his character. Cool. In season 8, Tyrion is a character that's victim to the plot. He can do absolutely nothing. He's in no power. He has no control over anything. He's at the mercy of the plot continuously in season 8. So he makes no changes and progresses the story in no way up until this final episode where he recommends that Bran be made the king of the Seven Kingdoms. Well, yeah, now make it make sense, game. Tyrion finally grows his balls back in this episode, though, and tells Daenerys that she can fuck off because she slaughtered an entire nation pretty much, and she tries to chastise him for freeing his blood. I get that Daenerys is trying to rationalize what she's doing at this point, but there's no way that you can write her character in such a way that makes her abandon logic completely and forget the fact that she just demolished an entire group of innocent people. That shot where she was walking out with the dragon behind her, though, was really cool. I really like that shot. Probably going to be a screensaver at some point later in life. Don't know when, though. I'm still mad at this show. I thought it was odd how Jon went from crying in that little corridor of space with Tyrion while he's telling him that he needs to take Daenerys out, and immediately has a change of heart while he's talking to her. I get that he knows that there's no changing her mind at this point, but to go from crying tears at the thought of having to take her out to actually doing it a few moments later. Sandre told Arya that, hey, you're going to close the eyes of someone with brown eyes, blue eyes, and green eyes, and Arya doesn't close the green eyes. Now, the only thing about this episode I thought was actually heartwarming and made some sense as far as the blood connection between Daenerys and Drogon. It only makes sense for Drogon to burn the Iron Throne because that's ultimately what ended up killing Daenerys, not Jon. You look at it and it's like, oh, well, he's got to kill Jon now. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have to kill Jon. He has to kill the thing that his mother was obsessing over her entire life, which is what ended up killing her. He did what she wanted, which is broke the cycle, broke the wheel, whatever you want to call it, and he took her body. Don't know where the fuck he took it. Nice, cool scene. However, it's overshadowed by this lack of logic that shrouds the rest of the show. The thing I found extremely funny about the ending of Game of Thrones was that on one hand, Grey Worm explains to this group of people, the hierarchy or whatever you want to call them, just call them the amazing, just call them the new Avengers, whatever you want to call them, these people up there that think they have the power or whatever. Grey Worm is explaining to them that they don't want to receive payment for Jon's killing of Daenerys. They want to receive justice. Excuse me, is this not the same guy that killed innocent people and was okay with it? Jon tried to prevent this guy from slitting innocent people's throats at this point that should have just been prisoners, and he still killed them. Pay attention. What do you think somebody in the frame of mind that Grey Worm has and the loyalty that he has, what do you think that he should have done to the person that killed his queen? You think he should have taken him as prisoner? So let me get this straight. Innocent people, you're gonna kill them. The person that kills your queen, that's the one you take as prisoner. Moving on, there's this time skip for the first time ever in Game of Thrones, and it's ambiguous. We don't know how long the time skip is because they don't show us. We just see Jon at one point with a somewhat naked face, and then he's got all this scraggly shit on his face. I'm not calling that a beard. I don't know what that is, but he's got some stuff on his face now to signify that some time has passed. The funny thing about it is, it was enough time to have passed for them to rebuild King's Landing. What happened to the ruins? How is this an ecosystem that's thriving now where people are walking around? How did y'all survive without a ruler for that long? Wouldn't there have been a conflict there? How are y'all in the same space? Who's leading? Y'all can't even decide what to do with your prisoners, but you're gonna tell me that you know how to run a city without any conflict? Without a leader? And I'm talking about during that time skip, not when they got to Tyrion and they took him to the Avengers. Bran is the definition of a dude that did no work for the group project and still got an A+. This dude has been quoted to be like one of the more influential characters in the show itself, but hasn't actually done anything. Okay, I think the extent of his powers went from putting himself inside of a crow and having it attack somebody that would have been a threat to him at some point. The entire series, they were trying to show us how great of a leader and a person John was, to the extent that we also get him being revealed to be royalty and having a right to the throne that he never wanted in the first place, to them sending him away back to the Night's Watch. Bronn was at the mercy of the Night King, completely naked, unable to do a thing, and you're gonna tell me this character is needed? Oh, you can see the future. You can tell us where we've been. You can tell us where we are. You're the most important character in the world. This guy, at the same time, essentially might not even be able to die. So you're gonna make this dude the king? That's a weird power move, Tyrion, but okay. I feel like Bran became king because they literally just couldn't pick anybody else. Game of Thrones Season 8 was a total letdown to me because I felt like they really should have taken the time to write out the characters and develop them more before ending the series. I think it would have been preferable for us, as opposed to waiting 2 years for a new season and getting just 6 episodes, where they cram as much as they can into these final 6 episodes, to have just waited, or we have gotten a season last year and they'd just continue for another extra season. I wouldn't have minded that. There's no need to rush. There's no need to rush. And don't get me wrong, Game of Thrones has given us some awesome scenes, some awesome moments in just TV history the past few years. They have. But the saying goes, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. The reveal of Jon's true identity essentially meant nothing if he was never going to rule anything. Breaker of chains ends up becoming the burner of innocence. Jon ends up right back at square one. Arya pretty much becomes Sasuke. Game of Thrones is officially not going to be entered into my top TV shows of all time list. That show, or those spots, remain reserved for shows like The Wire and Breaking Bad and The Office. I'm gonna stop talking about it because there's a lot more that I can go off on, but I'm just gonna leave it alone. And final IGOR thoughts. I really enjoyed that project, man. I honestly do think it's a solid note in Tyler's discography. A lot of people have mentioned that they feel it's a combination of Flower Boy and Cherry Bomb. I could see that because there are some abrasive tones on some tracks on IGOR. But just looking at this project, it's a natural evolution from the Tyler, the Creator, that we've gotten. I think it's really great that we can now at least take him seriously artistically. Not to say that you couldn't before, because I know some people are going to get up in arms saying, oh, he was always a real person. I get that, but a person that you could actually seriously, unironically relate to, a person that you could honestly see the humanity in and understand and empathize with, as opposed to looking at and laughing at, or looking at like they're crazy. I honestly felt a lot of sympathy and a lot of emotion from Tyler on this project. Now, again, I mentioned his singing being an issue for me, and it's never gonna not be an issue because I just don't think Tyler's that great of a singer. But as far as the references here to 80s synth pop music, the references to older 70s soul, the references to Kanye West, NERD. I didn't even know Lil Uzi was on the intro track. Kali Uchis, Frank Ocean also made an appearance on this project. I had no idea, but going back to listen, you can really, like, when you tune your ears to hear it, you can start to hear where these artists start to come in and where they start to fade out. There are moments on this project where Tyler is literally having the instrumentals that he's creating speak for him, which is why a lot of people who were complaining about lyrics on this project didn't really strike me in very powerful ways, because I just was like, what do you expect from a project that's supposed to embrace the feeling of a person that doesn't understand what love is? What do you think an album that is that would sound like? I would expect a project like that to put heavier emphasis over the instrumentals as opposed to the lyrics. I mean, imagine a character that's trying to mirror or trying to display the imagery of an IGOR falling for someone or being confused. Why would that person know how to express themselves lyrically? There are moments where Tyler does do that, but it doesn't happen too often in this project, I feel, to just heavier emphasize the idea that it's more of a feeling and an emotion than it is any kind of thing that you can describe or put into words. That's why I feel like sometimes we get some of those easier references to 80s synth pop music, because there were a lot of cliches that happened back in that time. Sometimes you just didn't have to tell somebody, you just showed them through action, and that's kind of what he did. It's an album that happens through action as opposed to meaning and an explanation. As it stands, it's probably going to go in my top 10 or my top 20, probably top 30 albums for the year 2019. I got a long list right now, which is funny, but that's how I'm feeling about it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Lil Nas and Game of Thrones and Tyler the Creator's IGOR album. I hope you guys enjoyed all 3 of these, and let me know what you think about them each in the comment section down below. And I'll see y'all next time. You know, it's been fun. And DJ Khaled review coming soon. Got some quick thoughts on that. And that's it. Appreciate you for watching. Thank you. And I'll see you next time. I'm out. Peace.